celebration, Simcha, Simcha, celebration of life.
Hi from me, Jared Epstein, and welcome to another episode of Simcha, a celebration of life. Due to the coronavirus, I'm social distancing, and I join you this week from my isolation station at home, alone. Chabad House has been very busy with their well-known Miracle Drive initiative. Rabbi Masinter chats to us about their ongoing projects, which include There's a Psalm for That and Be Kind.
The aim of Miracle Drive is it's a fundraiser that funds Chabad's outreach programs. And the way we did it is we just wanted people to have fun and at the same time support an amazing cause. So we have a variety of programs actually which Miracle Drive funds. And the Be Kind program is such an outstanding program. You know, in Jewish thinking, bad action creates bad energy. Bad speech creates bad energy. Even bad thought creates bad energy. But conversely, positive thought, positive speech, positive action, done publicly or privately, creates a positive action. Now, when you look around, there's a lot of fighting, there's a lot of hatred, there's a lot of bullying. So how can we remedy this? The truth of the matter is if we just get people to increase in acts of goodness and kindness, every time a person does an act of goodness and kindness, they bring a light to the world. It might not be visible to the physical eye, but a light is brought. So we're in a campaign we're hoping to get 1 million people to increase in acts of goodness and kindness using the medium of our ark. Our ark is a little yellow charity box in the shape of an ark, not because of the biblical ark, but ark stands for Acts of Random Kindness. And we're trying to get people to fill it up and give it to someone less fortunate. And if you can't get hold of an ark, well, just be nice to someone. And that's launched our Be Kind program, which today, well, now that we're getting to 1 million arks, we've started to go into a whole bunch of other programs. Actually, around Johannesburg, we're creating the most beautiful art pieces, a Be Kind art piece, similar to the one you see behind me. So it's great, and it just brings a smile to someone's face. You're driving down the road, normally you see negative headlines. Our campaign is, hey, just be kind, just put a smile on your face. And over and above the sculptures that we've done, we've actually run and will continue to run a campaign of just sayings, without logos, call your mom, be kind to someone, etc., etc. The beautiful thing about the Be Kind program is that there's no ownership of it. If one can get an ark and fill it up and give it to someone less fortunate, well, that's beautiful. But there are so many opportunities in our country to be kind. I'll give you an example. What's rubbish to someone is a treasure to someone else. How many of us are sitting with a few more pairs of shoes in our cupboard than we need? We could take those pairs of shoes and simply donate it to someone less fortunate. People have helmets for their bicycles. You know how many kids are riding without helmets who can't afford a helmet? Let's just all learn to be kind and to think of ways and opportunities to be kind. One thing in our country is amazing opportunities to be kind to one another. You know, everything that Chabad does follows the directive of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. One of the directives of the Lubavitcher Rebbe was that every person should have holy books in their home. Another program of the Rebbe was that people should say Psalms. Therefore, every year we actually publish a different book. This year we decided to publish a Psalm book. Now the reason being is because Psalms is the most important of all the prayers. It's the most powerful of all the prayers. The third Lubavitcher Rebbe said if you knew the power of Psalms, you would say them all day. The problem with Psalms is it's very difficult in Hebrew, and the English is even harder. Well, Chabad retranslated the Psalm book in a much easier English, much more meaningful English. So we started a program this year with the first objective was to get a Psalm book into as many homes as possible. So our objective is to get 18,000 Psalm books into 18,000 homes. Every single Jewish primary school kid in the country has already received one. We're busy working through the high schools. After high schools, we're going to go to the universities. And simultaneously to this, we are doing senior citizens. And anybody who can't afford one, we'll give one to as well. The second part of the program is to get people to connect to Psalms. So, for example, need a boost, there's Psalm 20. Want to turn a challenge into an opportunity, there's Psalm 23. So we've run a big outdoor campaign, a social media campaign, just explaining to people how easy it is to say a psalm and how powerful they can be. And we've also made an app, which is so easy to download. It's the most beautiful app. It's called Psalm for That, the number 4. And the beauty about modern technology, you can get all over the world so quickly. That is the power. But the objective is not only to get people to have books in their home, but also at the same time to increase in prayer and break decrees in heaven and bring down God's biggest blessing. What is the benefit of prayer? Let me give you an analogy. A principal has a school with 1,000 kids. The school has an ethos, their rules. One of the kids does something wrong. The principal calls the kid in and says, "You're expelled." The kid comes back to the principal. He says, "I know it's the rules of the school that you have to expel me. I know you're angry, but please, I'm asking you, please don't." What happens? All of a sudden, he's touched within the principal a level of mercy. And the principal looks down at the kid and says, "You know what? I'm giving you a second chance." That's the power of prayer. Prayer can change a decree in heaven. Even if something wasn't meant for someone, the fact that a person turns his eyes up to God and says, "God, please give me this for the day," God will answer. And we have to believe that. Do you know what I want to achieve with the Psalm for That program and with the app? I want to get the entire South African population to pray a little bit more, to realize that when we turn to our Creator in heaven and say, "Hey, please, God, help us," God will help. And if we can do that, if we can give people hope, I mean, there is just so much opportunity in this country. And I want to point out that I think that the definition of being religious, by the way, is serving God by living life to its fullest. And prayer helps you do that. So let's all increase in prayer. Let's all increase in psalms.
Rabbi Yossy Goldman and his wife Rochel are towering figures within the South African Jewish community. Recently, Rabbi Goldman celebrated the wonderful milestone of his 70th birthday and managed to get all of his 11 kids and many grandkids from around the world to celebrate with him. Quite a feat with such a big family. Simcha went along to find out more about Rabbi Goldman.
Who am I? Should ask the people who have to work with me or live with me.
Workaholic, 24/7, literally. You know, he's always thinking about the next program that he could do. And he's a very dedicated, selfless person.
I often marvel on the energy that Rabbi Goldman has, always working around the clock and reinventing himself, reinventing the community.
They say I'm pretty good at organization. Okay, being a rabbi of a big shul, there's a lot to organize. I'm not so good at delegating, unfortunately. I've thought about it a lot lately, and I think my main skills really are in communication. My wife and I together had decided, we were married, we had 2 young children, and we decided that we would want to dedicate our lives to the Jewish communal cause in one way or another. And Rabbi Mendel Lipsker, a friend of mine from Yeshiva, was here, preceded me in Johannesburg, and he offered me to become the first director of the first Chabad house in South Africa, back in a place called Yeovil, Johannesburg. And I put Johannesburg as one of my options in my letter to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe, in one line on the note, he just underlined Johannesburg. And I knew that that was my sole mission. So that's how we came here in March 1976 to open the first Chabad house in Yeovil, Johannesburg. So in the first 10 years at Chabad House, the Jewish Sound, the radio program, was, I think, an important achievement. It was controversial at first, you know, a rabbi on the radio, fair, you know. Unbecoming, some people said. But it was taking education to breaking new ground and reaching people who would otherwise perhaps be unreachable. I established the Gan Yisrael Day Camp, the giant menorah, which attracted thousands in the early years and still going, Lag BaOmer parades. Chabad House has an adult education center with a library. Today it's developed into a media center. Established the Torah Academy Shul in 1983.
Torah Academy was a new young community it started off with a few students at university who started studying Judaism, and they were studying philosophy because Chabad has the most incredible philosophy which explains life, explains your soul journey. So it started off with a few students, and today it's a few hundred families. And then he was headhunted for Sydenham Shul. So the rabbi at Sydenham Shul was leaving, and it was an established Orthodox shul. There were close to 1,200 to 1,400 people on a Friday night. So his whole life was busy helping the community, helping people, marrying. I think we had 50 weddings a year. So my husband was busy helping brides and grooms, doing unveilings, doing funerals, but mostly educating.
I went into the business of Jewish outreach. I see my mission as bringing the Torah and bringing the Jewish classical, traditional way of life to Jews who are not necessarily brought up that way or exposed to it, or maybe were but aren't convinced.
And the Baal Shem Tov teaches that every one of us in our own personal lives will also go through these same and similar journeys.
Thank God my sermons have been well received, and even put them into a book. Make no mistake, people fall asleep during my sermons as well. I mean, that's something you can't avoid. I have some guys who are regulars, they're dependable. I've now been by far the longest serving rabbi in the history of the Sydenham Highlands North Shul, which is over 75 years old. So I've been here for nearly half its tenure. I think that the relationships that a rabbi forms with community members develops and grows and matures over the years when you've had so many shared experiences, hopefully happy occasions, but unfortunately sometimes also sad occasions and milestones in life. But being there with people, Shabbos after Shabbos, Yom Tov after Yom Tov, and for their family milestones, people find it so meaningful and so comforting and reassuring that there's this presence, So I think there's something to be said for being in one shul for a long period of time and developing those very, very powerful relationships, which are very gratifying.
We at Sydenham Shul are so proud of all our youth and young adults activities. We have everything from children's services all the way up to young people getting married and beyond. And we provide the works.
So there's no question that the big synagogues in South Africa, and indeed around the world, are experiencing change. And with change come challenges. We've done relatively well to contain it, but it's definitely occupying our minds like nothing else. And we're working on different programs and models and ideas and innovations.
Rabbi Goldman had a vision, and that was catering for the young adult and young couple age group of 20s and 30s, where until 2007 here in the community, they were addressed and catered for together with a wider community of all ages. And Rabbi Goldman realized that in order to really tap into this age group and keep them here at the community, we needed to cater for them individually and specifically. And so he motivated with the committee of the shul to bring a rabbi that was going to cater specifically for young adults through their student life, young professional life, and into marriage too, young families. And that's what I came to do. And Rabbi Goldman kicked off something very successful, and that was a young adults movement and a division within the Sydenham community.
It's vibrant. It's as vibrant as ever, maybe even more vibrant than it has been. But numbers are a challenge. And numbers affect viability long term. So we are definitely discussing, debating, agonizing, planning, trying to think out of the box. But I don't know that anybody has yet found the correct formula.
Forget that I'm a rabbi, I'm just a busy professional and I got kids, and it's hard to find quality time with the kids. For me, the best quality time with my children the whole week was walking to and from shul together. That was just me, holding their hands, walking through the park, catching up on the week that was, one of the beautiful qualities, quality time.
We just recently celebrated my husband's 70th birthday, and it was just his dream that our family all gets together. We have never done that before.
We have 11 children, thank God, and Rachel, bless her, was really the pillar of the home. Many of them around the world, and not the most easy locations to get to and from. So thank God we have some children in Johannesburg and some children in Cape Town. But we also have children in Philadelphia, Kauai, one of the Hawaiian islands, Montevideo, Uruguay, Melbourne, Australia. And to have the whole family with all the in-law children and grandchildren together under one roof is unprecedented in our family. So it took a lot of planning, but thank God we had the most extraordinary family reunion, which was exhilarating and humbling and quite remarkable for us. And we are deeply grateful, and I haven't stopped saying thank God for the last few weeks. I must have said it 1,000 times. I'm not ready to retire, but I certainly hope to be very active and productive for many years to come, please God. I still have at least 2 books I want to get out, and I have a lot of things I still want to do. So don't mind taking a break here and there, traveling, but certainly still hope to achieve a great deal for the community and in self-development as well.
Sara Evian joins us again on the journey through prayer and connection, breaking down the Jewish daily prayers, discussing what they mean, and how understanding them can make personal prayer more worthwhile. This week, she speaks about the 5 levels of the soul.
So one of the most interesting things of prayer, the Torah teaches us, actually the Kabbalah teaches us, is that the soul of a human being is not one thing. It is actually comprised of 5 different states or 5 different levels. And these 5 levels are mirrored in the morning prayer. And it's very empowering to know what these levels are. So the base level of our soul is called nefesh, and this is the part of the soul that keeps us alive and vivifies us. It actually lives in the blood that pumps through our heart, and it gives our body life. And because of that, it is very involved with our survival. It needs food, it needs acknowledgement, it needs a place to live. It's very involved with our basic physical needs, and that's our physical being. And if we move upwards, you can actually see it as it moves up into our being. The next level of soul lives in our heart, and it's called ruach. Ruach is like the wind, and our heart can be quite tempestuous. It can be stormy or calm. We have many emotions within us at the same time. But it's really our seat of feeling and of love. And so this level of our soul, when it comes to the prayer, is about singing and feeling love for the universe and for each other. And then we move upwards to our intellect, which is called the neshama, and that is the part of our soul that can distinguish between, it's the moral seat of ourselves. We can learn what is truth and what isn't truth, and we can discern things, and we can actually be influenced by other people's opinions and knowledge. That's neshama. Those 3 are all within our body. And then we have a level of our soul called chaya, which actually lives outside our body. And this is the seat of our intuition. It is almost like it's the auric field that surrounds us. It's somewhat of a higher level of soul, and it has awareness of much greater things than our intellect, our heart, and our physical body. And if we can trust this level of chaya, it feeds us with knowledge of each of our soul prints, which is very unique. And then the highest level of our soul is called yechida, which means one. Yachid means unique and singular. This is the part of our soul that is connected to the divine at all times. It's connected in the oneness of being. It is almost like a drop of water which sinks into the ocean of oneness and becomes part of it. So these are the 5 levels of the soul which are mirrored and reflected in the prayer book. One of the first prayers in the Nefesh section, as we are establishing our physical being, as we're coming into prayer, there's something that you can say as you enter the space. And I've written it here as, I enter the sacred space in song, psalm, and prayer. May my body be open, my heart uplifted, my thoughts clear, and my soul like the eagle's soar. And we go into the first prayer, which is called Elohai Neshama, which is the renewal of my soul. And it says, my soul is breathed into me from the one above, created in wholeness, fashioned in purity, and preserved in holiness. May my eyes see the beauty in all things, and may my deeds know the gift of compassionate righteousness. And this blessing describes the descent of the soul from its source in the divine sublime purity in the spiritual realms above. And it mentions 4 levels that we spoke about of the 5 levels of the soul. You have breathed it or infused it into me, you have fashioned it, you have created it, and it is pure. And these levels also correspond to God's name, the transcendent name of the Yud, the Hey, the Vav, and the Hey. Each level mirrors one of those letters. The intent of this blessing is to connect my soul as it resides in the body with its spiritual source above. This connection endows my soul with the power to carry out its mission in the world, refining my body and surrounding environment, transforming them into a dwelling for the divine. With this prayer, I align my intentions and actions with the most valuable aspects of life before each day begins.
Well, that's all we have for this week's episode of Simcha, a celebration of life. As always, we'd love to hear from you, so please send us a Facebook message at Spirit Sister Productions. From me, Jared Epstein, and the Simcha team, stay safe and stay home.